Yay, we're live. Oh, it only took 10, 15 minutes, but we did it. We're here.
A good amount of time.
Thank God. Yeah. It's probably good. I've probably done worse. So pretty good. I'm pretty okay with that. The MFGCast. I am here with you, Kurt. I have an awesome guest with us today. A person you already know. He's awesome. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Taylor from Riverhouse Games. Taylor, thanks for coming back on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Quick question: should I be recording in Audacity because I haven't done that?
Yeah, let's do that, shall we? Let's do that. Right. And I'll do an intro later, and I'll throw one of your old. It's good to be on the show in after that. So definitely,
because you've got enough. All right,
so other people that missed it can see it, or hear it.
I am officially recording. It's going to be on you to splice it all together. So have fun with that.
Good gravy. I'm already so tired from everything. So in case you didn't know, well, you should know because you're on here, you're listening, and watching. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little fun thing. I just half-handedly threw out a message to Taylor and said, hey, I'd really like to just try to make up our own RPG and then play it and see what happens. And Taylor said he was on board right away. He's like, this is my jam. And I'm like, sweet. Because I love when I actually come up with an idea and someone actually likes it. That's a good part. So we're going to try and do this. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I mean, might as well. So yeah. Taylor, what do you have on you besides yourself? Do you have anything? Because I'm a big nerd. I've got a pen and a little notebook. I've got some dice. Are you just going to play it all in your head and just be like, okay, I know what it is. I'm a RPG robot and I know what to do.
I have probably the best tool at any RPGer's disposal, which is my smartphone. So I have a dice roller app. I have I've got the Deck of Fate app, which is super cool. I did not realize that. Oh wait, no. Does it have? It doesn't actually have poker cards. I thought that it did. It does not. But it's got Fate cards. It's got the Fate dice on it, and I'm sure that I could find an online card puller generator. But everything for me is digital, so.
Nice. I heard you're that kind of guy. I'm more of an analog kind of old dude, so I'm sure this will blend together nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I mean, so don't get me wrong. I love rolling hard dice, but I have all of my dice at the Riverhouse right now, and that's like 30 minutes away. Yeah.
That makes sense. The old Riverhouse gang.
Yep.
That sounds like a fear itself. That. So we're looking at making our own RPG. So where do you start with? What do you start with? Do you start with a name? Do you start with the genre? What do you start with? What do you think?
Yeah, so I have been doing every single month I write one tiny little game, and it's been a really great exercise, and I think that's why I was so excited about coming on here is, to show people not only is it something that everyone can really do, but it's something that you can do in like an hour or two. There's a project, mm-hmm. Before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to a really great Twitter person. I'm not entirely sure who actually runs it, but the Twitter is Project LT3, which is Project Less Than 3. And it's a challenge out on Twitter to write an RPG in under 3 hours. And if you do, then they give you a shout out on their page. And it's been a community that I think is growing really quickly, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So when I'm writing my small games, it kind of is up to how the inspiration comes at me. Normally, I will have an idea and I'll say, this would be really cool or really interesting. What can I do with this? So the game that I wrote that made the finalist for the 200-word RPG contest back in March was me saying, can I write a game that the Riverhouse people can play around a campfire that doesn't have paper, that doesn't have dice or rolling, that doesn't have anything, and we can do this entire game just with the campfire. And so the mechanics for that are you tell a story as a group of adventurers after a dungeon, kind of debriefing and talking about what went well, what didn't go well in the dungeon crawl, and anytime that anytime that the conversation slows, you add a piece of wood to the fire, and someone else takes over the story. So I think, if we have something like that, if we have just like an idea off the top of your head, that's a really great place to start. I have a few ideas in the bank that I haven't turned into games yet, so I would definitely feel like more than happy to put one of those to good use here. Otherwise, Kurt, if you've got something that you've been tossing around, we can definitely work with that too.
Nice. You know what's funny is I don't have like a genre or a game that I had thought up. It's weird because usually I like to be kind of prepared, but also I like to go off the cuff. And for some reason, I was like, you know what? I just want to wait until we get to this position and see what happens. So I like your idea of just throwing out a couple things. The only thing, this is how dumb my mind works. So the only thing I thought of when we had talked about this before and leading up to this day, I thought about this worked. It would be kind of cool to put it in, but I was thinking, whatever the title is, whatever we decide, breaking down the fourth wall in the fifth dimension. Just because I thought it was silly, and it would be a long title that everyone would just hate having to type in when they looked for it, So
Okay.
I thought that would be kind of silly, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But hey.
Yeah. So fourth wall in the fifth dimension. I think definitely going with that. So let's break that down. Breaking the fourth wall is a literary term about addressing the audience in a text. I like that, especially with RPGs, because the line between audience and author is like non-existent. So the audience for your game is the people who are playing the game and the people who are making the game. I think definitely acknowledging that is going to be something fun to play with. Let's look at, because I know three dimension is what we're living in with space. Fourth dimension is time. I'm not entirely sure what the fifth dimension is. Oh boy. A fifth dimensional space is a space with 5 dimensions. Cool. If interpreted physically, that is one more than the usual three, and the fourth of time used in relativistic physics, an abstraction which occurs frequently in mathematics. Blah, 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 blah. Oh boy. So when we go to the podcast, you might have to edit out some dead air as we're thinking and looking at stuff.
Hey, I love dead air, and I'm sure everyone else does. Of course. I'm all about getting rid of the dead air and the ums, because that's usually me.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw Fifth Dimension as a great R&B band.
There we go.
Uh,
Okay, so we're going to be telling a story, uh, talking to ourselves as the audience from the point of view of an R&B band, and it looks like Swedish physicist Oscar Klein independently developed a theory which uses the fifth dimension to unify gravity with electromagnetic force, which sounds fun. I don't know any of the physics or math of it, but I like the idea that we're playing with gravity. So, addressing the audience, R&B band playing with gravity. So once I have an idea, I usually like to think, okay, what kind of stories can be told? What are the different narrative things that we're going to be doing? And I think telling the story of an R&B band, playing with gravity, we could think about them as they're circling a black hole. So that's the game. Is you play an R&B
Nice.
band who are circling a black hole.
Nice.
Um,
And their big hit is probably Black Hole because I mean,
mhm.
so then, so if they're circling the black hole and they're talking to the audience,
They're aware that they're in a story, we could say.
yeah, and they're probably, I don't know if this is gonna do well for us because I'm an okay singer in the shower, but I don't know about you, but I would almost think that they would be almost almost doing a almost like a variety show where they're
Okay.
like an old like Dean Martin thing, where it's like, oh, we're doing this kind of thing, but we're gonna kind of talk to you about kind of what's going on. But in
Mhm.
between that, we're also gonna sell albums because this is
Mhm.
variety show.
And it sounds like we're going to be really specific with the idea for this game, and I found that that's actually something that
Mm,
really helps when you're making smaller games is to just like narrow the specificity down to a pin. Because the more things that your game has to do, the bigger it is, the harder it is, the longer it's going to take you to write it, the more work that you're going to have to put into it. If you're doing something very, very specific and niche, you can come up with maybe one or two rules that are specific just for that, and that's all you need. Um,
mhm.
so that's, I mean, that's a little bit of a background on why I keep adding details to this. We can always cut if we need to.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, which makes sense. You just come up with a bunch of ideas, you find
Mhm,
out what you think works best for it, and then kind of narrow it down from there.
mhm. All right, so the game is the variety
Hmm.
show as we're circling a black hole. Um,
Yes.
Something that comes to mind is, especially with breaking the fourth wall, the repetition of time. So if we're circling a
Okay.
black hole, time's going to be all weird and wonky. Maybe it's not an R&B band, but it's a one-man R&B performer who, because of the weird time dilations, has repetitions of himself. So there's only one character that we need to play in the game. And then I think that that works perfectly because we don't need to make up a bunch of characters. We can just make up one person who's doing multiple things with himself or with themselves.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
And they could
mhm.
because they're so you're saying that it's not only him, but it's excuse me, a bunch of different versions of himself.
Yes.
Okay.
So every time they go around the black hole, a new double comes in. And
Gotcha.
I like this
Uh-huh.
because then it gives us the next question after you have your idea of what do I want this game to be about is what do I want the game to do? And it sounds like we have a
Yeah.
pretty good roadmap in that we want the game to do a variety show. And if we're
Hmm.
having doubles come around every time that we go around the black hole as we're slowly sinking into it, um, the variety acts get more and more complicated.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
as we're telling the story of this sinking into the black hole, we're telling, okay, this is the first act, it's one person. This is the second act, it's two people. What does that look like? This is the third act, it's three people. What does that look like? This is the fourth act, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm. I'm already enjoying this. I haven't even played it yet.
um, and speaking of acts, this is spitballing off the top of my head. Um,
Okay.
there is something in narrative structure called the five act play. And so if we're
Nice.
taking our variety show and we have acts that are getting more and more complicated, we can go with this 5-act play structure, which is Act 1 is prologue. As I deftly click out of a pop-up ad. Act 2 is a conflict. Act 3 is rising action. Act 4 is the climax and falling action, and then Act 5 is the wrap up. So,
just because I want to write this down, I got prologue, conflict, rising action. What was the fourth one?
Climax and falling action. So the climax of your story actually happens between Act 3 and Act 4. So it happens, usually in theater, it happens at the end of the third act. That's the cliffhanger that everything hinges on in a television show right before the commercials.
Nice. Yeah, I like this because in the wrap up, the wrap up can be a literal thing for your variety show, where it could be like, well, this is all the time we have because I'm, well, he would say but then once you get into the end of it, there's 5 different versions. Well, actually 5 different versions of themselves. They'd be like, that's all the time we have. We're literally going to all, perish into this black hole, or, who knows what's going to happen from there because we've never gone into a black hole. So. Okay, so 5 acts.
And we can have a fun little wordplay of falling action as they are falling into...
falling to their black hole.
Yeah.
Yep. It'd be a good thing to reference as you're doing it because you're breaking the fourth wall.
All right. And I think that gives us a pretty good skeleton structure. So stop me if some of this sounds not like what you're thinking. But so in breaking the fourth wall in the 5 dimensions, is that what the title was?
Yeah, that's what I think. I think it should be. I mean, unless you have something that sounds better.
No, I like that. So in breaking the fourth wall
cool.
in 5, this would just be like an example of game text. You play as a lonely space astronaut slowly sinking into a black hole. However, you've decided to offer yourself solace by putting on your own variety show, as every time that you circle around the drain into your eventual destruction, time resets and you create a double with yourself. The challenge then is to develop a variety show which will not only entertain you in your final moments in life, but also offer closure with some personal conflicts. You will follow the 5-act structure in making each act of your variety show more complicated than the last, until your ship finally crushes itself under the weight of its own bloated narrative. In the first act, act out, discuss with yourself what personal conflict is unresolved in your life. In your second act, have the second side of that conversation with yourself, as if the second character were arguing with the points set about in the first act. In the third act, boy, what do we want for our third act for rising action? Because we've got our prologue establishing the trouble. We have our conflict offering opposition to that trouble.
Could be like a certain understanding between the two people, like having this conflict, but then in the end coming to a resolution that gets them both excited for what's to come.
Okay. I like that for Act 4 or Act 5, which is our falling action and our closure. Rising action, we want something... this will be what pushes it into the point of no return.
Gosh. So what would you do that would make it? This is the part where I'm actually stumped.
Yeah. So the fact that we're like agonizing over this tells me that this is the moment for the game. So this is what the game is about.
Because you've already introduced your player. They're
Yep.
having a conflict with themselves, which and already in itself is even though we haven't even played it yet, is pretty. Think of anything else I say gripping, and then
Hmm.
just to come up with that from there,
Hmm.
it sucks because it almost lends itself to where it starts, because I'm sure each of them could be different.
Hmm.
So where do you go from there may have to do with it and kind of come to that point. So that's where I'm having the difficult point of trying to come up with exactly that could be.
Hmm. So another step that I use sometimes when I'm game developing is uh, it's a concept called play storming. So that's a
Okay.
mashup of play and brainstorming. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily want to jump into the game right now to get some play storming, but let's imagine that we were. So if you were enacting out Act One, you're this character. Think about yourself as the character. You've established your personal problems. You've started your woe is me as you've decided that nothing is going to save you. All of a sudden, a duplicate of yourself pops in and starts arguing with you. Just when you thought that you've gotten to the point where you're talking circles around yourself, something else extraordinary happens that raises the stakes and complicates things. What is it?
I would almost think it would have to be a complication with the ship that you're in,
Okay.
because you're constantly going around this black hole. It's gonna happen.
Okay.
So the main thing has to be that some kind of malfunction has to happen for that to bring it to the next level.
Yes, I like that. Because then so we've got struggle with the self, we have struggle with the other, we have now we have external struggle. Um, so hmm, I'm gonna blatantly steal um, from something, which I think is slightly okay. They say great artists borrow, or good artists borrow, great artists steal. Um, and I'm doing this under the guise of adopting genre tropes, as we are clearly um, in a science fictional world.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to insert Technobabble for our third act as the summoning of the third body uh, causes a problem, and we can generate a random table for this post Hangouts. But I'm just googling Technobabble generator, and we'll throw that in there.
Okay.
So as reality is ripping itself apart with three copies of yourself, an oscillating frequency relay goes haywire, and the ship accelerates in. So whenever we're adding new things to the story, we want to make sure that they complicate and push the story further. So this is
Mm-hmm.
introducing the outside conflict that you were talking about, something wrong with the ship. Um, the struggle then for the third act is to tie in how the ship's malfunction relates to the internal struggle and the arguments in Act Two. Um, and I think that we can look at allegories for that. So
Mm-hmm.
making it clear for the game that um, if your personal struggle is one about anxieties, um, something fragile yet integral to the ship, is destroyed, and your character has to rely on their skills that they are anxious about to get them through the clutch. So, overcoming anxieties and performing well creates the ship down. And that's going to be something that the GM or the player has to do on their end with the narrative. So that's not something that I think that the game text can actually offer. That's going to be difficult. Another thing is if someone's stubborn, maybe moving a large object would be something that we could suggest. If What are some personal conflicts? Because we could also make this a table too, just like a reference table. Um, so stubborn, anxiety. If your personal conflict is an inability to communicate, um, maybe the feedback whenever you talk jams some of the finer tools of the system or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Um,
could be like, any of the your duplicates, because they're coming out of this fifth dimension, could, really play with just about anything, physically or spiritually, or,
mhm.
like it could be something where, it's unexplained, but we may think these extra versions of yourself are coming from electricity from the black hole, which,
Mhm.
damages the ship and causes things to happen.
Something that I'm realizing right now is that this may not be a game that you play with other people. This might be a one-player RPG.
Uh-huh.
As you're the one character and you're going through the steps, but having to relate with what's happened before. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we have laying out your airing of dirty laundry, your confessional stage, as you will. Um, the challenging of that. You have personal conflicts made real, um, and your plummeting acceleration. Um, so the climax of the game is the point at which you realize what you needed to fix in yourself by fixing the ship. You can use the allegory of whatever was broken in the ship to um, to come to terms with the problems and the conflicts that you've laid out in Act One and Act Two. Um, but then what happens in Act Four?
Okay.
Is Act Four basically just laying out the "I was so stupid, I should have seen it"? And is that
Yeah.
where your idea of bringing the synthesis together comes in?
Yeah, that's what I think, because it seems like if we're talking about this in a single player self, it almost seems like that's of sussing that out.
Hmm.
It's the things that I want, that I think of right now. But again, because we're not playing it, I don't want to. But
Yeah.
you know, there's lots of things that you can think about when you think about, even just like, we can take R&B band out of it if we needed to. We could have these little
Hmm.
other things that we put into it, performer wise,
Hmm.
you know, and we could say, what kind of things does a performer have that bother them? As it could it be they're older and they have something to prove that they did when they were younger? Is it
Hmm.
they're young and they're trying to make a name? Is it point I was with a band and now I'm not anymore, and now what do I do? I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at it,
Hmm.
and it's great because again, I think that not saying it for this, necessarily, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I'm just saying for other RPGs, I think the the know you have a great RPG is that you can take what you have, and you've talked about it and other people have talked about it. You can take something like this and you can hack it and put a lot of other things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just do the RB band. You could put this person used to be an ex-football player. You could put that this person is a celebrity that is out of the closet and they don't know how to deal with their society and with themselves. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could take this and make it into something else.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's cool to think that something like this can easily happen if you just try it.
Yeah.
Because I will be the first to admit I'm not very good with a lot of stuff, because even though I'm smart in some ways, I'm not smart in other ways. So I just wanted to do this with you, Taylor, because I knew that you were very good at doing it, and I just thought that you do something really fun. And the fact that I've been able to at least put a few minor things into this, it really is a test to the fact that all you have to do is just think and what exactly you want it to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what you were saying there is this, like, the skeleton for what makes this, like, actually work, like the nitty gritty, like what are we gonna do? So the questions that you were asking, like, uh, maybe you were in a band but you're not. I think that that's something that we can put in, like that's what we need to put in the game for that first stage that everything else can build on. So if we're thinking, okay, Act 1, laying out your dirty laundry, what does that look like? 5 questions. That's a perfect, like everything that you were saying is perfect for that. So you used to be famous, you're not now. Why is that? How do you feel about that? You lay that out in Act 1. In Act 2, that's something that you have to challenge and justify to yourself. In Act 3, that manifests in a physical way. In Act 4, you're solving the physical problem, lets you figure it out. In Act 5, you still die, but you're at peace. I think Act 5 can be similar for most things, but it'll be flavored by what had happened in the previous acts. So as you're crashing into the sun, what does it look like using inspiration from those previous things?
Mm-hmm. And your point on it being being in the direction of a one player game, I just thought of this too, like not necessarily. You could bring more people into the fold and have them come in the different acts, but then you could also reference it as what it is. So we're playing this breaking the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look to the crowd and say, wait a minute, this isn't me. I'm pretty sure this is somebody else. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Or you could be like, looks like me, but it sounds a little different, and then have the other
Mm-hmm.
people that come into the fold and see if they can match the first person's personality.
Mm-hmm.
It could go in that direction. But then again, just like any RPG, direction, it doesn't necessarily make it a bad direction. It just makes it a different direction.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I like that. So I'm going to open up a Google Doc and uh, I'm going to start writing. Give me just a moment here.
Yeah, that's fine. And I'll just give a quick shout out to the 2 people that are watching. Thank you very much. Awesome.
All right. Let's see if I can share my screen here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we are screen sharing.
Sweet.
Google Docs is incredible.
Sorry, I am just sharing on Twitter that we're live and writing our RPG. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to click on your there so I don't have to see myself. I'm actually going to take myself off of this.
What are you doing?
I'm presenting your spot to everybody, so they don't have to see me right now. So they're actually going to be seeing what you're writing.
Oh, okay.
So every time I make a noise or fart or whatever, then they're not gonna have to see my ugly face.
I forgot that I wasn't hosting the call, so I just assumed that was already happening.
Hey, I'm just learning. I'm just an old guy with new technologies. Yeah, you were sharing it with us, but if I didn't throw it up for everybody to see, then they'd just be seeing me every time I talk.
Mm-hmm. So as I'm writing, it's going to be your job to engage our audience, Kurt, with banter
sweet.
And small talk.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it. What we're doing here with it, because again, it's you can take just about anything and throw it in there if you want to, but I mean, I will be honest, I didn't expect it to go this fast and this far. Again, being new with RPGs and stuff, I'm still just learning, everything there is to know about RPGs, where a lot of times when into RPGs, they think it's okay, I need a dice, I need a couple of books, and I'm good to go. Well, there's a lot more out there that gets you to this place where it could be, because I didn't even know there's games out there that just use playing cards. I was like, wow, that's awesome. I'm like, well, that's kind of it's your random output that you would get from rolling dice. It's your random output that you would get from talking with somebody else in your gaming group. So there's just a lot of different ways to do it. It's not just one way of doing it. And I like that it seems like there's more and more out there where it's not just, hey, this is a dice, this is what you do before you attack or act or whatever. Coming up with this RPG that I want to run that it's enough to eventually play with Rohit and Matt is the RPG that I have is based off of a book that I actually wrote a long time ago. And it was just one of those things where I was kind of in a place in my life where I was stagnant, and just like a lot of people, they want to be bigger than themselves. And I'm really big into high fantasy and superhero stuff, you know. So I actually wrote a book about a guy that is just kind of stagnant in his life and finds the love of his life, is about to marry her, and then they get in an accident and he loses her and he is in a coma. And he finds out when he's in this coma that the world that he's living in is he can do just about anything he puts his mind to. So I wrote that a long time ago, and haven't put it out just because I haven't found anybody to edit it. But then I wanted to make an RPG about it. Well, you need my help. Okay, I'll stop talking now.
I want to hear more about your game.
You could have just said, hey.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, especially since you're talking about a Mocha, and I'm really digging that. So, yes. So I think these were the two questions that I remember you talking about. You had a few more. So do you remember them?
Yeah, we used to be famous. You had a partner in fame, just starting out, wanting to become the belle of the ball, or the main act. What's another thing? Used to be famous, had a partner in crime, getting famous. Something else too. Why can't I think of it right now?
You had a few of them.
Another one could be that you were the background singer that was always better than the main act, and you wanted to, become that main act, but things along the way just didn't happen. You spot.
So how's that for?
I think that's pretty good for, first act for sure.
Because the goal with these is to establish something about yourself and introduce conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So last one.
So what else could be? Used to be famous. Who inspired you?
I've got one if you don't.
Go right ahead.
So a lot of
Nice.
big name bands or artists have that one thing that got them famous that they hate. What is it? Is it Radiohead love or hates the song "Creep," even though that's the biggest song that they play? Every band has that one song that they refuse to play that was a smash hit.
Yeah, it's like Nirvana and Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So, I'll let you keep talking about Mocha now.
Okay, sure. So after I wrote that story, again, I wasn't able to get it edited and put out there. It's a short story. It's only about 160 pages or something like that. But I loved everything about it. I mean, of course, because I wrote it, you think you would have to, but you don't have to. But I just really like that, I was able to do it. But now with making this RPG, it goes in with a world that I already know, and it kind of takes a topic of using parts of your brain power to do certain things. And when it starts out is when you're using your brain power in dreams, and that's for skills and for conflict and stuff like that. But also because, half of the inspiration to write it is because both my wife and my son have problems with certain things. Like my wife has multiple sclerosis, so she deals with that on a daily basis with her blurry vision, and sometimes she has some of her go numb and stuff like that. So that's is a difficult thing. She's driving now, but there'd been a time where I'd have to drive to work all the time and then drop off my son, and it's a lot of work. And then with Logan, he has ADHD, and just dealing with that from a young age where he couldn't tell us how he felt and what was going on with him, to where now it's a lot more manageable, but where we have problems with it. So, I thought it would be kind of, not only would it be an interesting thing to talk about and have that be the thing in the game where it's like the good side of the good people that play the good characters are trying to find ways to help people with these these problems in their brain, but also they have make them extraordinary to. So I thought that would be cool, and then have the evil characters, if you wanted to play that, or if we put that in your story, are people that are trying to affect more people and trying to get people, have people, sorry, I'm getting jumbled up because I'm trying to think of the right words, but just trying to make that more of a problem, So it not only it could be you can go from different angles with that. You could have it just be something that's very simple, like you work in a hospital and you work with dementia patients, and you are just trying to find a way to get in their heads to help them deal with it, if not, cure them of it. I know that because it's a fantasy setting, you could take it to the extreme of like, oh, I help somebody, get past that, even though that's technically not a thing that would happen in real life. And so when I wrote it, I just thought that would be an interesting way to do that, because again, even with talking to people that don't know what multiple sclerosis is, they say, oh yeah, multiple sclerosis, and they'll be like, what is that? Because it's still new. So not only is this a way to I have to do more talking? All right, fine. Okay, so I'll take it off of Taylor for a little bit. So not only is it a thing where you can have fun and you can play your own game, but also I hope it's a good way to use that as a coping mechanism. If you know anybody that has, something like that, it could, not only will it be a game that you could play, maybe it's some and kind of talk out stuff. And of course, when you're playing these kind of games, a lot of times you're playing with your friends, people that sometimes family, and it's good to share that kind of stuff. So hopefully it gets people to go in that direction, but I mean, that's not necessarily where it could go. I hope more people have more fun with it, but again, if it helps in any way, that would be great. So, but fact of where I like where we're going with this, because this is just it's really exciting to where this has come from, for just being on for basically 45 minutes. So it's awesome. So I'm gonna put Taylor back on with his writing. I'm gonna comment on some of this stuff here. I wish there was a way that I could make this bigger. Can I do it? Can I do it? Nope. Nope. Oh, I did do it. I'll be darned. I can actually see it a little bit better. Oh,
Kurt,
you're sharing it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the link here.
Nice, perfect. Oh, you definitely sent it. My phone is beeping. Very nice. So yeah, so it looks like we've got the airing of grievances. So then you just pick, we've got the examples, but you can always go on your own and kind of write your own things if you come up with it. And then you got the second one, which is the challenge where your body double comes up, and then you have to basically explain to them, why a certain thing is going the way it goes. I like the just argue with yourself. I'm sure if you're playing by yourself, hopefully you're in a safe space. You're not in an apartment where somebody thinks something's going wrong. Calls the cops on you. And then you've got your manifestation, where it becomes more external, and you look at that and just see what can happen. But sorry, I'm reading more than I'm talking. I apologize. If your conflict revolves around anxiety, for example, something fragile but integral on the ship breaks, and you have to overcome your self-doubt to fix it. I like that. Any movie where you're coming from a small place and trying to make it big, there's always that conflict that you have to overcome, and there's always one or maybe even more than one thing to fix along the way. Yeah, and then the area of the catharsis where fourth body double is trying to help you kind of console yourself and come at peace with where you're finally going, your final moments of the black hole. I like it. And it's funny that every time I'm thinking about this, I just think of, like a performer performing and saying, well, this is the end of the show. And let's try to get this back to where I have it. Getting to the part where it's the end of the show and the curtain's starting to come down, and you could do a thing where you even like much as you can before the curtain call finally comes down, even if it comes up on top of you. That would be a good way, one of the better ways to do it. All I can tell my family is getting ready for bed because my wife and my son are done singing. They could have been part of this R&B band. What other stuff can I talk about while you're writing? I'm usually full of a lot of pep and a lot of talking. One day for me. Doing a lot of physical work, so I'm glad my brain is still somewhat functional because my body feels like it's broken. That could be a good part of that game. Doing it for so long, body's broken down, or because your body won't let you. That would be a good one also. There we go.
But this game is kind of sad, Kurt.
I know. You know what's funny too is like I was going to reference that. I just didn't want to interrupt you. Oh shoot, I'm making noise. Sorry. When I first thought of this, I thought, gosh, this will be fun. and then as soon as we started sussing it out, I'm like, oh my god, this is actually kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But there's again, it's like anything. You can make this as one-sided as you want with all of the, I could have done this, but you can also, what also sometimes makes a great comedy is some of the drama in it. It's not always, funny games. A lot of the great comedians, some bad shit has happened to them. So, there's always going to be something that plays into the whole where it goes from there,
Mm-hmm.
back and forth with different things. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie This Is 40, like I didn't like that movie because it was too serious and not as funny as I wanted it to be. And I wanted to be more of an escapism. And I was like, God, this actually feels like it's my life. I don't want to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think the tone is going to be a lot different whether you're playing by yourself or whether you're playing with a group of people.
mm-hmm.
Because if you're playing by yourself, it's definitely like a look into your own demons as they drag you down. If you're playing with each other, I think that it could be kind of funny as everyone's like shouting and like arguing and fighting and things are blowing up and shit's catching fire um, and then as everything crashes and explodes, the last instruction is take a minute to sit in silence. Just because when you hit a black hole, everything stops because gravity is pulling you, and like it's that fifth dimension shit where it's just like things don't work the way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I think that we have a game text right now.
Yeah.
So let's pop
Perfect.
in some words about playing with one or more people.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. Talking about that whole thing where it's, it could be very sad. It could be a lot of fun. It all depends upon situations. I just thought of a situation because you were hilarious last night because you were clearly lit up and on Twitter just saying a lot of funny things which made me laugh, and I told my wife it made her laugh. But it made me think of that situation. Like, say we decide to make this we try to make this a party game and we get 5 people together and we all get drunk. It could be very fun.
Yeah.
But also it could be a thing where a couple of people start airing out issues with you and you play it in this game and you're like, oh shit, this is not just a game we're playing. So it could go anywhere.
Yeah. I like it. So are we ready to play?
Sure, why not?
All right. So you can play this game with one or more people. We're playing it with 2. There's only one character, you. You are a fading star, lost and adrift in space. Your ship has begun circling a black hole. These are your final moments. Great, huh? As your ship approaches the event horizon, time plays tricks on you, and multiple copies of yourself begin popping into reality, creating a macabre variety show as you suss out your personal problems with yourself. The show follows a 5-act structure as your problems become real and you accelerate into the sun, into the black hole. I was thinking of Sunshine, the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Cillian Murphy and a bunch of other people.
No, I've never seen that movie.
Oh, it's good, but it's also sad into like the last 15 minutes, where it switches from like existential, like sci-fi, like angst horror, into just like a hokey monster drama. It's it's a
Nice.
to avoid the pun, it's a difference between light and day. Um, so these acts fall as follows: the airing of grievances. So, who wants to be the original? Do you want to be the original, or do you want to be the body double?
I will be the original.
Okay. So, if you have those questions, I'll have you write down those answers. And then once you've got them all written down, just give us a little paragraph. It's like a Mad Lib here.
Okay. All right, let me pull up the questions really quick on my phone. Okay, so now with this, we're going to answer every question. We're going to go A through E, and we're going to do it. Or are we going to just pick one and go from there? The quandary I had with it.
We should do all 5 here. Let's just do one and play the game with just one question.
Okay, sounds good. Boy, there's so many good ones now. Okay, so I'm going to answer B, which is, you had a partner in fame. Who were they, and what did you do to lose their friendship? Okay, so do you want me to just write it down, or do you want me to just say it?
Just say it, because
okay,
we're good.
So I'll just say it. So basically, we had a duo that was very famous. It was me and a lady. We were gonna be the next Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. We were gonna be the next Captain Tennille. We were gonna be the next, big singing duo, and sorry, just want to read this really quick. So what happened was, we got to a point where we were on top of the world, and we were getting so famous so quickly that this other person that I was with just could not take it. It was just too much for her. She wanted the fame. She didn't want the fame. She just wanted to sing, She wanted to, meet these other people that she was a little girl. She's wanted to perform with just about anybody. She's wanted to play these little dive bars, anything to just sing, And me, I was out for everything. I was out for the fame. I was out for the fortune. I was out for the drugs. I was out for it. Just went 0 to 100 to back to 0, because I just burnt myself out, and my partner just could not take it anymore, and she left. She's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it without you. I don't need you. I've got all the talent in the world. And so I decided to go off on my own and to make it big and fail miserably, because I don't realize that the best thing about me and her was, and not just how we sang the music, but our vibe, our being, our personalities, our auras. It just, everything sunk up so well that without it, it turned a bright shining star into nothing.
All right, and as you say that, you round a circle around the black hole, and a copy of yourself pops up. A copy of myself pops up because I'm in this ship and I had that relationship. But you know what? That wasn't my dream to start with. That wasn't why I got into the business. I got into the business because it was luxurious and because I had a skill that I was good at and I could use that skill to make money. And, if she wanted to just, live summer of love and sing for the singing, then, maybe we weren't all that great of partners to begin with. You know what I gave my mom for her birthday last year? A plane. So, you know, that bright star can turn to dust, but I'm living comfortably. I have not worried about bills in 30 years. None of my family has. Um, Fame and fortune have allowed me to live a life where I don't have to worry about the things that I used to worry about. And if my relationship with this woman has suffered with it, that's a roadblock that I frankly don't even need to consider anymore, because I can pay other people to consider it for me.
Well, that's where you're wrong because not only have you, done all these things for these other people, but you're not there. You're never there. You can buy them the biggest boat. You can buy them the best house. But where were you second birthday? Where were you when your wife left you? Where were you when where were you when your son bisexual and you just left him by the side of the road? Where were you when your mom died? You care about all these things, hey, let's, you know, I broke my leg, so let's buy a jet ski to, go around in, I uh, um your your son doesn't love you anymore. Let's go fly to the Bahamas and and pick up anybody that we can see and just take them to your room. Regardless of all these things that you have nothing.
All right, that sounds like a great conflict and argument. What physical form does that take? So, what kind of personality conflict do we have in this person? Um, it sounds like something about values.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
It's values in relationships more or less than an actual value, a money
mhm.
value.
So, sentimental versus like practical, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, what would that take the shape of on a spaceship?
What would that take? Boy, maybe something with life support.
Like that, yeah. And give me
Yeah.
just a moment here because this is another thing that happens in designing games is that you will discover things in play that you did not know about in drafting the game. So I think that give me just a moment here. That gives us something good to put in stage 3. So when we say look at the conflicting statements we have above, try to come up with a physical representation, something going wrong on the ship. Uh, start by identifying the underlying. Nice. All right. Lauren just got home and she brought home a big frozen garlic bread, so I'm excited about that. Um,
Nice. That's awesome.
start by identifying the underlying theme of your conflict. Boil it down to less than a sentence using abstract concepts. All right, so it's something with life support. Oh, here we go. The life support just goes out, but we know that it's too late to actually matter.
Yeah. For the story.
And so as we're fixing it, our third body double pops in and says, you know, there's no use. We're already spiraling. What's the difference between suffocating and getting spaghettified?
If we think about where we came from, our upbringing, you know, going to church every day, and you know, going to Sunday school, and what our mom had big beliefs on is that you may be done with this life doesn't mean the next life won't be better. You know, just because you've done a lot of wrong doesn't mean that you can't be sorry for what you've done. Just because we're going into this, who knows where we're going to be on the other side of, you know, it could be Allah, it could be a big pig that, you know, loves you for being you if you are okay with it. You know, I mean, the different ways to think about that. You know, you ever since you started this whole thing, you thought to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to be that person that loses this reality. Everything that you've done towards that away. And you know what, I mean, again, you could say all of this for, but all the people that listened, you know, just think about the people that every day they go through their lives, whether it be a company or they're working 3 jobs to house their 8 kids. You know, how much that you guys have put forth this thing bigger than music, that's bigger than entertainment, that's bigger than yourselves. You know, it could be something where somebody is, they don't know why they're even going through life, why do it, and your song comes on and it inspires them to write a song, to ask that boss for a promotion, to quit their job and do exactly what they've wanted to do because you've done the thing that you love to do.
Kurt, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was great. That's a perfect Act 4 for us. That perfectly synthesizes, you know, personal drive and doing the art for other people. And so as we spiral into the sun, leaking oxygen, the gravitational shear on the life support leaking out of the side of the ship creates a flare that can be seen from telescopes far and across the land as a bright star that explodes.
I think that is that Randy just kind of down and just kind of laughs to himself, and he's kind of looks at everybody, and even though he knows that it's all himself, he just kind of says, all right, boys, how about one for the road? and they go into their big hit, even though his partner is not around. He sings his parts, but also does a bad impression of her and does her parts of their big hit, The Black Hole, as they spiral into oblivion. And even though the black hole looks like in Doom, it's like a reverse sun that kind of beams down on everybody and on all of his doubles, and they just kind of and go into it. The end.
Perfect. I was giving a silent for a moment of reflection there.
No, that was perfect. You did it, because I was reflecting, and then it got awkward because I was like, "What do I do?"
Yeah, awesome. So that was Breaking the Fourth Wall in the Fifth Dimension, a game that is less than an hour old, and it's already been played.
That's awesome. That makes me feel great. I don't know what to tell you. It makes me feel great, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on and do this, because that was a fucking lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. No, I mean, it was incredible, and like you said, yeah, it feels great. One of the things that I did not realize that I have found the most rewarding thing about my endeavor this year in making things is just like the joy of sitting down and pounding something out and having a finished like thing at the end that's great. And it's been super rewarding. It was an honor to work with you on this. Working with other people is also something that's been like a joy that I had no idea that I would find so rewarding 8 months ago when I started this trip. So 9 months ago, almost 10. Awesome. Holy cow. Okay, yeah.
Wow. Wow, now you're a seasoned veteran now.
Yeah, there we go. So
that's awesome.
Cool. I really want to say, like, yeah, I've been doing this, and yeah, I've like made a lot of games, but like this is something that we just sat down and just did. And that's like the big thing that I want, people to take away, and why I was like so pumped about coming on here, because like the barriers to entry have never been like easier to overcome than they are right now for like getting into RPGs. Like the internet exists. Minnesota and Wisconsin aren't super far away, but like the fact that we were able to do this over voice over IP and like look at each other in the face as we're like coming up with this game and just like sit down and just do it and like talk about stories and then like build one. That's phenomenal to me. Like I love it. I love the concept of it, and I want more people to be like pumped and excited about doing it. So like if you're listening to this, and this is me like getting on my soapbox, if you're listening to this and you've like always wanted to like do a game, do it. Like do it and then tell me about it, because I will be psyched as hell for you. And I'm sure that it's rad, and like you've got great ideas. Everyone has a great idea in them. And like you saw Kurt and I do this in an hour and a half. Like you can do this.
Yeah. It's just sitting down and doing it. That's all it is. Just sit down and do it. And again, because we're all predestined. Oh God, I can't even think of the word. Anyway, predestined. I think that's what I was trying to figure out, is that a lot of times when we make stuff, we'll look at it at first and go, "Oh, that's awful." Well, you know what? I guarantee you it's probably not. And you can work on it,
Mm-hmm.
And just like, Taylor said, you don't have to be, all this technology lends itself to getting yourself out there and doing the things that you want to do, whether it's write it up or play something, even if you have the anxiety of playing in front of people live. You could go to Gamers Plane, take your game there and play by post there. And then if you get enough guts to do it, then you can do it on other platforms. I mean, it's as hard as you think it is. You just have to go for it, you know?
And like, even if it is trash, even if you write something and it's like, this is actual garbage, and it may be actual garbage, like, you got to make a lot of crap before you make something good. So you make it, you look at it, you go, I don't like this. Think about why you didn't like it. What lessons can you learn for the next time around, and then make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's
But like,
what the whole like the whole playing it thing is. You like we did then when we were playing it out. You're like, oh, this needs to be added, and you're like, well, there you go. You know, there's just do it, people.
It's so fun.
Oh yeah,
it's so
yeah.
fun.
That was like I knew I was gonna have fun because I love hanging out with you, Taylor, and doing this stuff. But you know, again, it's always cool when things surprise you.
Yeah.
So do that, okay, people. Okay, before I keep saying do that, do this all the time, I'm gonna let Taylor talk for a little bit. I want to know what's going on with Riverhouse Games. You've got a lot going on, and I want to know what's going on so everyone else can know all this cool stuff you've been working on.
Yeah, so my life is pretty hectic. It doesn't kind of feel like it day to day, but then I like think about what all is going on. I'm like, so I have two podcasts, the Leviathan Files and Games Closet. Game Closet used to be Riverhouse Games show, which was just like a variety show, but I've decided to just put the focus on Game Closet, which was one of the segments. I want to get to know and explore the lives and highlight the voices of all the really cool LGBT and queer game designers, game players, anyone in tabletop who identifies as queer or LGBT. I want to talk to and just like celebrate that community within that community. The other show is the Leviathan Files, which is a bi-weekly D20 Mass Effect actual play podcast. We're just wrapping our 4th season, and that is our final season for that story. We will do something afterwards. I'm just not sure what. It's been kind of hectic with both of those, especially following con season. And I just got a new job like a month and a half ago. So we're a little behind on both of those shows, but I promise that we'll actually have like regular content coming up pretty soon. I have some time coming up soon that I am just going to chock full of recording, and then we'll just hammer out content and put that up. I also write games under riverhousegames.com, where you can find all of the plain text versions of my games. I want to make that distinction because I am just now starting to put stuff up on DriveThruRPG with art and layout. I have one game up that is called 5 Single Playsets. That's a supplement for Toby Abad's A Single Moment About Dueling Samurai. But it takes the game and yeah, it's super cool. It takes the game and it hacks it so that you can use those rules. You can use Toby's rules to play woodland animals, to play superheroes, wizard school, all sorts of good stuff. And then coming up soon for that is a game called Heart of a Marauder, which is a adventure scenario for Monster Hearts. It's about gay teen werewolves in wizard school. And that is something that's super cool. That's in like art and layout right now. We have a really cool lady working on the art for us, and I've seen some of the preview stuff that she's been working on. It's rad. There's also Creatures of Blood and Flesh, which is a game that I'm putting out under the Cypher System Creator license, which is a science fantasy game using the Cypher System. So the things that The Strange and Numenera run on. That's in final layout stages right now. All of the art is done for it. It's like 99% done. And I can't wait to put that up on DriveThruRPG. That's going to be so cool. It'll be the first thing that I have in print that has my name on it, because it's sitting at about 60 pages. So I'm thinking about turning that into a book using DriveThru's print-on-demand feature. And I am also pretty good in development on This Is a Game About Fishing, which is my like baby pet project. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse game about high-tech fish thieves in the far future, and that's been super cool. There's also just myriad tiny games that are fun, like the game that we just wrote. And that's all up on riverhousegames.com. I am currently drafting up my Patreon page right now so that people can help out, because hosting is not cheap, art's not free, layout is not free, and all of these things right now I'm paying out of pocket. So Patreon is a good way to help support that, and also just a good way to stay tuned. So anyone in Patreon is just going to get automatic updates with everything that I'm doing. And as you can tell, that is a lot of things that I'm doing. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love your segment from scratch, that when you guys just take an RPG and just go with it. You don't even read it. You just go from there and play it. I love that.
yeah, we have one that's coming up pretty soon. Like, I'm gonna try and edit it up and get it up tomorrow, even. That is a from scratch for Josh Jordan's new game, Short Film, which was a great game that we played. It was incredible. We basically made like the most emo edgelord anime short film that we possibly could, and it's great, and I love it, and I can't wait to put it on the internet. So
That's awesome. That sounds awesome. I will just mention one little thing before I let Taylor go and let you guys go. We have Extra Life coming up in November, and what Extra Life is it's a day set aside, and I'm sorry, I forget that day, but we're collecting money for it. Where it started out as a charity that gamers started, video gamers. And it's for children's hospitals to help out sick kids, not 6 kids, but all the kids. And we've done it every year. This is our 5th year doing it now. And we've teamed up with the Flip the Table podcast, which is a board gaming podcast. We're looking to get a bunch of money donated there so we can hit our goal of $500. So if you have the time, we've got some cool things that we have lined up. I know that Taylor said that he was willing to give up some of his time and some of his creation for people that want to donate. We'll kind of work out the details, and I'll let you know at MFGCast on Twitter and on our Facebook page. And also, we're doing some other things, like if you want to run an episode of our show. We do a gaming show. If you're not podcast, we like to talk about board games, card games, RPGs, video games. You can run an episode of the podcast. You just donate $25 that you want to run an episode, and we'll work with you as long as it goes with our schedule to do that for you. Also, if you liked what you're listening to here, I am actually putting my services to the test. So if you want me to run something for you, if you donate $25, I'll run a one-shot. $50, I'll run a 2-session story arc. If you donate $75 to $100, I'll do a 6-month or a 6-session with you. You pick what it is, as long as I can get my hands on it. I've got lots of people that I can find out if they've got it and they can share it with me. Then I will run something for you if you're willing to do that, because every year we like to do this. We like to raise that money, and this is a charity that I've been in love with every year, so it'd be fun to do.
yeah, Extra Life is a great charity. It's a good cause, getting kids games who need them. Who need that little extra perk in their lives. So I'm definitely proud to be part of the team with you guys on that. So
that's perfect. So yeah, so just keep a listen. If you have any questions, you can always holler at us on Twitter or Facebook, and we will give you the details. So Until then, thank you for watching, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Share and enjoy.
Yay.